Thanksgiving Day NFL breakdowns, everything you need to know in 15 minutes. If you've never been here before, welcome. My name is Max. I make these for every primetime game as well as every game on Sunday to give you a unique edge, looking at run scheme metrics, coverage data, and overall trends nobody talks about because it relates to the scheme behind the game instead of just the numbers you see on the screen. Without further ado, let's get into this breakdown. As always, in the description are links to my socials, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Make sure you're following on there for additional breakdowns. First of all, happy Thanksgiving. I want you guys to comment one thing you are thankful for in the comments. I know I don't usually do that. We are people at the end of the day. I hope you're celebrating the holiday while also enjoying some football. Let me know what you're thankful for. Let's talk about game one. Green Bay versus Detroit. The data outliers here, this Packers defense, a very zone-heavy team, which we'll talk about here in a minute, is allowing 6.2 tight end receptions per game and 4.9 running back receptions per game. Those are both bottom 10 in the NFL comparatively. They're only allowing 197.8 pass yards per game. That's the fifth fewest in the league, and 96.5 rush yards per game. That's the sixth fewest in the league. The reality with this Packers defense is they get after the quarterback. They win on early downs. So guys like Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary can pin their ears back and go get the quarterback. And they're very efficient when they do. This is a good defense. On the other side, the Lions are really good against the run, right? They're only allowing 101.7 rush yards per game. That's the 10th fewest in the league. But they're allowing 150.3 wide receiver yards per game. Every single time I break down a Lions game, I will tell you the same thing. I don't think their secondary is good enough to play as much man as they do, but they continue to play it. It's a really good team offensively. I think they're going to have some success, but defensively, I worry about them in the secondary. Let's talk about the Packers here for a second, though. Like I talked about, they're very zone heavy, top 5 in zone coverage rate in the NFL. And against zone, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery see a pretty heavy uptick. You go look at what happened when they played week one. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery each had 4+ catches. Jahmyr Gibbs caught 10 balls, guys. It's not a coincidence. It's because of how much they play zone. It's because of how much Jared Goff likes to throw the running back position, but even more against zone, which is really important to note, right? The Packers are allowing running back targets at a top 5 rate, and Jared Goff already, regardless of coverage, is throwing there at a top 3 rate. The bottom line is the Lions want to get the ball to the running backs in. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is playing better than any offensive player at their position in the NFL right now. I firmly believe that. They want to get him the football as much as possible. And when they have to spell him out with David Montgomery, this matchup in the pass game should allow Montgomery to have some additional production through the air. If you guys were subscribed last year, which if you're not subscribed right now, make sure you do, you know our wagon was David Montgomery against zone-heavy teams. I still like him a lot, but Jahmyr Gibbs is playing way more now, so he can't lean into it. The other thing that's really important here is Sam Laporta, who's done pretty much for the year now, saw a bunch of targets against this Packers team, but also against zone throughout the entirety of the year. You go back to week one, right? Sam Laporta, 6 receptions for 79 yards. He was the leading receiver on this Lions team when they played week one, and it's not a coincidence. It's because of how much zone they play, right? The Packers are also targeted at the inline tight end spot at a top 10 rate. You go look at some of the tight ends who have produced against the Packers, and there are some pretty solid games week after week. TJ Hawkins had 4 catches last week, but even Theo Johnson, 36, Dallas Goedert, 43. The Panthers don't throw to tight ends. I feel like every time I talk about them, I say that. But then you go back up, you had a 74-yard game from Trey McBride. Jake Ferguson caught 7 balls, 6 for 64 from Zach Ertz, and then 6 for 79 for Sam Laporta. Like, these guys produce against the Green Bay Packers because they sit in zone, they check the ball down, and ultimately lead down the field because they're kind of sitting back and bending and not breaking. Now, with Laporta out, you would think Brock Wright. I do think Brock Wright. Brock Wright's also hurt. And when that has to happen, they're probably going to lean into more 11 personnel. Like, the tight end depth is not going to be maximized. And if Jared Goff wants to throw inside, it's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, guys. That's the reality of it. That's always how it is. I don't want to overcomplicate it. On the other side, like I said, the Lions play the most man in the NFL. I don't think they have the guys to do it. I don't. They just line up and play man, even though I don't think they have the guys. Regardless, when Jordan Love sees man, it's Christian Watson, right? Most yards per out run, an extremely high average depth of target, and he is the main out wide guy for the Packers, where the Lions are targeted already at a top 10 rate. Now, Jaden Reed, who is questionable, as always, injury updates will be in the comments here, has an extremely high average depth of target. And he scored against the Lions when they played in week one, that big chunk slot fade, if you remember, the right corner of the end zone. If Jaden Reed plays, I love him. I love him. I think he's an awesome player, but against this Lions defense that's just going to keep playing man-to-man and may even draw more attention to Christian Watson, I don't know. I like Jaden Reed a lot. I think he's that good. Romeo Doubs, also an outside guy, but targeted more against zone than man. Doesn't mean he won't get his, but the coverage data likes Watson a little bit more. Also really likes Dontavian Wicks. And if you guys remember against the Eagles, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when they played on Monday Night Football, that was our note. Wicks was questionable. Eagles were top 10 in man at the time, and we were like, well, it's not a lot of data, but Wicks has been doing it. Go look at that game. Dontavian Wicks had overperformed in terms of yards and reception. So Dontavian Wicks, another guy, and then Jordan Love, highest comparative tight end rate compared to out wide slot and running back, but still throwing to the running back position at a really high rate. So the bottom line is Love doesn't throw the ball a ton, right? When he throws it, he's not wildly good, to be honest with you. But when he does, he's taking shots down the field. Now, Josh Jacobs is the big question mark here. Personally, right now, I'm recording this on Tuesday. I think he's going to play. I don't know for sure. I think he's going to play. But this Lions defense, like we said, is really good against the run. They're going to have to set the pass up. They're not going to abandon the run. But if they can successfully run the ball, I think the Packers have a good shot to win this game. Now, on the run scheme metrics side, the Lions are very zone heavy. Packers are balanced. Lions are good against the run. The Lions are very zone heavy in terms of the run. The Packers defense is better against zone, but they're the most efficient man gap team in the NFL. Jahmyr Gibbs, thank you for that. Like, you go look back at Jahmyr Gibbs' recent performances, guys. It's actually unbelievable. Number one, how much he's touching the ball. Like, we figured he'd touch the ball a little bit more this year. Number one, how much he's touching the ball. But what he's doing with those touches. Like, how many straight weeks of 3+ catches? 5 straight weeks of 3+ catches. So he's a staple in the pass game as a running back. 219 last week against the Giants, over 100 scrimmage yards against the Eagles, over 100 scrimmage yards against the Commanders, nothing really against Minnesota, which is very interesting to note. They shut him down. And then you go back to Tampa, 100+ scrimmage yards, a decent game against Kansas City. Kansas City, we'll talk about here in a minute, also very good against the run, almost 100 against Cincy, almost 100 against arguably the best run defense in the NFL. I think this is 99 against Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken, more than 100 against Chicago. Like, Gibbs is operating at a different level, and if I'm the Lions, I'm continuing to get him the ball. I'm watching both Lions running backs. I'm really watching Christian Watson, guys. I'm really, really watching him for a chunk play. I feel like every time we talk about Christian Watson against man, there's a big chunk play. Jaden Reed if he plays, and Brock Wright if he plays as well. Game 2, Kansas City versus Dallas. The Chiefs defense is only allowing 203.5 pass yards per game. It's the 7th fewest in the NFL, and 97.6 rush yards per game. It's the 7th fewest in the NFL. The tail on the other side is the exact opposite. Dallas allowing the second most pass touchdowns, 270.3 pass yards per game, 5.4 running back receptions per game, 45.2 running back receiving yards per game, 167.5 wide receiver receptions, and 66.2, tight end receptions. Here's the bottom line, guys. I don't think the Dallas defense is as bad as those numbers suggest. Since the addition of Quinn and Williams, since Demarion Overshown has been back, this defense has been playing better. They've been playing better. Oh, also before I do give my game pick, I think a lot of this depends on the health of Josh Jacobs, but I do think Detroit wins this game. I think they bounce back at home. Looking at the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys game, though, the Chiefs are a more balanced defense. They're targeted in the slot at a top 5 rate, though, which is really interesting. Number one, because Dak is throwing out wide at a top 5 rate already, not really in the slot. He loves George Pickens. Pickens has been playing his behind off. He's been awesome. But it's also really interesting because of where past production has come against this Kansas City Chiefs team. You look at some of the wide receiver performances against the Kansas City Chiefs, and you can see there's some commonalities in terms of where the production is, or at least where the targets are going, right? Not a big game across the board here, but it's the guys who you think. Michael Pittman Jr., not a huge game from anybody against Denver, but Troy Franklin. You go back up to the Buffalo game, it's Khalil Shakir with 8 targets. You go back up to the Washington Commanders game. Deebo Samuel leads in targets. Trey Tucker leads in targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown leads in targets. Brian Thomas Jr., kind of a data outlier in this whole thing here. Zay Flowers leads in targets. You go back up to this Giants game. Neighbors led in targets, but you look at Wan'Dale Robinson, who's up there with 4. The slot guys, to me, are going to consistently get more action against this Kansas City Chiefs team. The slot guy for Dallas, I know everybody's lower on him now because of some drops, is CeeDee Lamb. We'll talk about CeeDee Lamb here in a minute. I really like him in this game. The Cowboys are zone heavy, though. They're top 3 in zone coverage rate, and they run so much cover 2. So much cover 2. It's the Eberflus special, if you guys didn't know already. And when Mahomes gets zone, oddly enough, the highest target rate is Brashard Smith. I would lean into that more, but Isaiah Pacheco is supposed to be back, so I'm kind of staying away from that. But it is important to know because the Dallas Cowboys are being targeted out of the backfield at a top 5 rate. So teams are throwing against Dallas through the air. And you can see back up here, 5.4 running back receptions per game. Sorry, that didn't make any sense. Throwing against Dallas out of the backfield at a very high rate. But they're giving up, again, more than 5 receptions per game to the running back position, more than 45 yards to the running back position. It's worth noting with Brashard Smith. It really is. What's also really worth noting and is interesting in this whole thing is the snap counts, because they just signed Dameon Pierce. I don't know if Dameon Pierce is going to get activated. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been playing as much as Brashard Smith, but this backfield is going to get really crowded really fast, really, really fast. I don't know what they're going to do. If they activate Dameon Pierce, it's going to be very interesting to see. He also could just be a special teams guy. He's a great returner, but it is worth noting that Dameon Pierce is a Kansas City Chief, especially in this matchup, because he is a dynamic player. Smith's a dynamic player. I think in the pass game, they're going to lean into those dynamic guys like Brashard Smith. It's worth noting. Don't 100% know how much any of those guys are going to play, but even more important to note that Rashee Rice sees a huge uptick in targets against zone, and he's the most explosive player on the Chiefs against zone. However, the Cowboys are targeted at the inline tight end spots, the only top 10 target rate they got, at a top 10 rate. So I look at Travis Kelce and I'm like, yeah, maybe he can produce. Sorry, this is the second highest comparative rate because they're targeted in the slot. Sorry, Mahomes is targeting the slot, at the highest rate in the NFL, and that makes me feel even more confident in Travis Kelce, because in terms of the slot production, the targets per out run, it's Travis Kelce number 1, Rashee Rice number 2. Now, Rashee Rice is more explosive from the slot, which is also worth noting, but overall, who's going to touch the ball more? And for me, I look at targets, receptions against zone-heavy teams. Travis Kelce's the guy. I like both of them, but Kelce's the guy to me. Run scheme metrics, the Chiefs are zone-heavy. They don't run the ball well at all, but the Cowboys are better versus zone. And the Cowboys, this is where it gets really interesting. And this makes me even more confident. I think Dallas wins this game. This makes me even more confident in Dallas. They're kind of balanced in what they do offensively in the run game, but they're top 5 in man gap efficiency. And the Chiefs are noticeably worse against man gap. Maybe Dallas has an edge on the ground. I don't know if the Chiefs have faced a pass offense like Dallas is, honestly, to date. You go look at some of the players or the teams the Chiefs have played, what pass offense in any of these offenses is going to compare to the dynamic ability of George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, and Jake Ferguson? Maybe Indy? And they still weren't great against Indy? I don't know. I don't think they've played an offense like that through the air that can threaten them like Dallas does. I think Dallas wins this game. I'm looking at CeeDee Lamb because of the slot production, and then Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. I do have an eye on Brashard Smith, but I can't lean into that confidently. Then the Thursday night game, Cincinnati-Baltimore, the Bengals defense, you name it, stinks. They're allowing 267.7 pass yards per game, most pass touchdowns allowed, a ton of rush yards, a ton of yards per carry, a ton of running back receptions, a ton of running back receiving yards, and they're tied for the most tight end receptions allowed. Guys, we'll look at the game logs against for the Bengals here in a second. The tight end production is utterly insane. Utterly insane against them. Utterly insane. The Ravens defense, though, has gotten better after the addition of Alohi Gilman, is getting there, I would say. I don't think it's 100% there. They are very susceptible, in my opinion, to inside wide receivers. Now, I look at Marlon Humphrey on the outside as the number 1 in the defense. Whoever is away from Kyle Hamilton on the inside, legitimately on the other side of Kyle Hamilton, is a guy I would be looking at. Now, they are targeted on the outside a bunch. They play a bunch of man. Jamar Chase is going to get his. That's how this game is going to go, especially with no T. Higgins. But on the other side of the ball, the Bengals defense, like I said, bad, but they're extremely balanced in terms of the coverage they run. Middle field closed, middle field open, zone man. They do a good job of running a bunch of things. They're just not good at any of them, at least statistically. Guys, let's go look at these tight end game logs against the Cincinnati Bengals. This is insane. I don't think you guys are ready for this. Let's go back to, we'll start most recently. Hunter Henry, 115 yards and a touchdown. That's Hunter Henry. Darnell Washington had 67 yards against them. Colston Loveland had 118. Granted, he had the long touchdown, but he still scored twice, right? He still caught 5 other balls. The Jets, oh no, they didn't do anything. Well, Mason Taylor still caught 5 balls and a touchdown. Pat Freiermuth, I was at this game, had 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. 111 yards. Tucker Kraft didn't do much, but he scored. Sam Laporta had 92 yards and a touchdown. Oh no, the Denver Broncos with the million tight ends they roll out didn't do anything. They had 13 targets to the position alone. That's crazy. TJ Hawkinson, 49 a touchdown. Even Josh Oliver got in the end zone. Brenton Strange didn't do anything. Then Harold Fannin Jr., 77 for 63. And David Njoku, 37. That's 100 combined yards. They are bad against tight ends. Really bad. And then when you go deeper, guys, This is where I really like this. Even though they're allowing running back targets at a top 10 rate, Lamar Jackson's target rates are really important to note because he's thrown to the slot at a top 5 rate. The tight end production allowed, the slot target rate allowed. Who is the dynamic slot, quote unquote, big slot tight end the Ravens have? It's Isaiah Likely. I think this is an Isaiah Likely game. If you go watch what Lamar said in the media this week, it's saying, he's going to get his time is going to come. Mark Andrews has been great, and I like Mark Andrews. To me, this is an Isaiah Likely game. Looking at the Ravens defense and what I think they're going to force the Bengals to do, I think you're going to see some true doubles in man, to be honest with you, against Jamar Chase. But because they're middle field closed heavy, he's still going to get his one-on-ones on the outside. And Burrow's back. That's potentially the most important thing in this game. But Ravens are targeted out wide at a higher rate. The Bengals throwing out wide at the highest rate in the league. Now, no T. Higgins will affect that, but Andre Yoshivas, I think, is a guy that can step up. You also look at the game logs for the other Bengals wide receivers in this whole thing, especially last week. And it is important to note that guys like Mitchell Tinsley is still at 29 yards and touchdown. Obviously, Yoshivas got 4 for 61. He was actually their leading receiver. But there are other guys who are still stepping up throughout the Bengals offense. Like you look at Andre Yoshivas, more 1, 2, 3, 4 40-plus yard games or 49-plus yard games than not since week 4. Like he's stepping up. He's playing a bigger role, and this is without Joe Burrow. I'm fascinated to see what Yoshivas does, especially if the Ravens give a little more attention to Jamar Chase. I think this could be a big, big spot for him. But, I mean, the biggest difference maker in this game is Derrick Henry. We're all on the same page here, right? Like, I look at this Bengals defense, which, again, 5 yards a carry, 156 rush yards per game. You go look at the game logs against this Bengals team, guys, it's ugly on the ground. Like, it is ugly on the ground. Trayvon Henderson had 66 yards. Oh, no. Jalen Warren had 62. Gainwell had 24. Kyle Monunga had 176. Breece Hall had 133. Jalen Warren had 127. Jacobs, only 93 yards. He scored twice. He had 57 receiving yards through the air. This is going to get ugly, I think, guys. Like, I think Joe Burrow is awesome. I respect the hell out of him for coming back. I think this could get really ugly. And then you go look at the schematic stuff, too. The Ravens are top 10 in zone efficiency. That's what they do a bunch, too. The Bengals are worse versus zone. Schematically, it leans into the Ravens even more. What's really odd, though, the Bengals' run offense is top 10 in zone efficiency. Did not know that. The Ravens' run defense is way, way, way better against zone defensively, though. So, again, I'm watching Derrick Henry. I think it's going to be a big game on the ground for him. Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. Keaton Mitchell, because, number one, the Bengals are giving up 45.9 running back receiving yards per game and 5.4 running back receptions. He's also getting more carries to spell Derrick Henry out. If this thing does get out of hand, I'd watch him. Obviously, Yoshivas, too, like we talked about, and then Jamar Chase. If you guys did make it to the end, please do leave a like. I appreciate you guys watching and listening. We'll see you next time. God bless.